This Ag Vision program is made possible through the generous support of Syngenta Seeds NK brand. The results you need, the freedom to choose. And by Farms.com. Ag news, market prices, ag careers, and farm real estate. You'll find it all at Farms.com.
Not being proficient in basic business management skills places many farmers in a reactive mode, constantly looking for someone else to bail them out from a crisis. Those are the words of our next guest. He has developed a farm manager test designed to highlight the key proficiencies considered essential to successfully manage a family farm business. Over the past 20 years, farmers from across Canada, the U.S., and Australia have taken this quiz. Dick Wittman is the author of the Farm Management Proficiency. He is also a farm manager and farm business consultant and joins us now from Cul-de-sac, Idaho, to describe his findings. Mr. Wittman, you have said that this test reveals that a critical mass of farmers don't know what they don't know, and they also don't realize the significance about it. Tell us about that.
Well, over the last decade in working with family businesses and doing seminars with farm groups, I've used a self-assessment test that outlines some of the key proficiencies that farmers need to be successful in managing a family farm business. And I've been able to assemble these statistics comparing some of our top farmers in the U.S., some of the top farmers in Canada and Australia. And when you look at these numbers, the farmers realize it's them, they are scoring themselves, we are not scoring them. And in many cases, they are getting a flunking grade on some of the most elemental parts of farm management. But when we describe farm management, if we don't get specific and we look at the specific skills that it is they need to excel in, they really don't know what it is they need to do to improve or what they need to do to go out and seek training or management development to improve some of those areas. So I've been able to use some of these statistics in some of our programs to have people compare where they are, and it also gives them a goal for a learning path as they start looking at ways to improve their management in their business.
Can you give us an idea now of the types of questions that you ask?
The common areas that we're polling growers on are not in the production area, because this is an area where most farmers tend to excel. But these are areas in personnel administration, general management, things like, have you established a mission and a vision and a long-range set of values? Do you have a strategic plan? Do you do budgeting? Do you do cost centers and profit center analysis in your business? What about ratio analysis? Do you do this, and how often? Do you use that information to set goals for your business? The financial management area is another area where we have a number of specific questions that are asked, and we seem to be making more progress in that area, but there's still a long ways to go in using some of the financial tools that are available to farmers, particularly in things like optimizing capital purchases and understanding how to analyze that decision.
Farmers, teachers, advisors, bankers have all taken this test to assess strengths and weaknesses. What does your analysis reveal about the most common areas of weakness?
Probably the two biggest areas that farmers need to improve on are, first of all, managing people, and second of all, managing the financial area of their business. In managing people, there's some management theorists that say you can't manage people, so I might rephrase that by saying, how do you as a manager establish an environment where the people that you are working with can excel and make the best decisions possible? It's how do you create that climate? How do you attract and acquire and retain the kind of people that you want to make quality decisions in your business? The whole gamut of writing job descriptions, doing performance evaluations, having communication systems where there's feedback, seeing that people have training and development to take them to new levels of performance. These are areas that are almost non-existent in agriculture.
So why does the agricultural demographic seem to be slow to adopt some of these professional skills?
I think the reason that we don't see more professionalism in agriculture is it seems to be the last industry that has accepted the fact that it is a business as well as a way of life. Many people view agriculture as a place where you are there to excel as a producer. And decades ago, that was acceptable. You were measured by whether you could produce a crop or take livestock and take it to a marketable product. But today, as businesses have gotten more complicated, it's the management process that you follow to create that production that separates those successful producers from others. I think part of the reason people don't excel in many areas of management, it has not been a part of our culture. And in other respects, because it has been somewhat of a way of life, I think there's been less of an expectation that we run it like a business. The fact that much of our industry is in the hands of families, managing the dynamics of a family versus the dynamics of a business, and the cultures that go into those different sets of dynamics have not been sorted out in the past. And people are realizing that we need to manage those more effectively.
You make it clear that this analysis does not address basic production management proficiencies, and yet you focus heavily on the importance of knowing your cost of production. Why is this so important?
The issue of why should you know what your cost of production is it's a tough one, because it's not where farmers want to spend their time. People do not crank out cost of production analysis or do cost and profit center analysis for the erotic satisfaction of cranking out reports. They do that because that is what establishes the foundation for them to link performance and the kind of strategic decisions that can be made to change those numbers. And I'll give you an example. If you had your equipment support cost center very well laid out, and you saw what your costs per acre were to produce a crop, and you looked at the management strategies you're following, and then you could compare your numbers to a neighbor, and you realize that that neighbor is maybe sharing equipment, they are doing some very unusual things on insourcing and outsourcing, and his numbers are better. You're going to be grilling that person as to why the decisions that they made result in better numbers than you have. Now, 2 years ago, with lower fuel and fertilizer prices, we might have been complacent and said, we're okay, we have enough margin, what we're doing is fine. This coming year, with the cost structure that many farmers are facing both in the States and up in Canada, we're going into the new year, in many cases, with a break-even at best in production agriculture. And people are going to be forced to ask questions. What is my cost of production? What are the strategies that I can look at to lower costs or to streamline or increase yield or do something to raise that margin? And the value of knowing that cost of production is not knowing the number itself, but it's establishing a foundation to identify strategies that you can change that will make it better.
Do farmers have common areas of weakness in management, whether they're from Canada, the U.S., or Australia? And if so, does this cause you any frustration as a farm business consultant?
Well, the surveys are broken into 3 areas. There's the management system, personnel management type things. The second area are the financial management proficiencies. And the third area are the marketing proficiencies. And in the last 20 years, our industries here in the U.S., Canada, Australia have all made major improvements. But we have only begun to crawl in the personnel management area. And what's interesting is that when people take these tests, they realize, gosh, I'm really not doing this. And then it creates kind of a subconscious knee-jerk reaction, which is, but should I be doing this? A group of farmers' wives in Australia was taking this test, and it took them longer to take the test than I've ever seen, because they would read the question and then they would enter in debate with their neighbors saying, but isn't this a good idea? Why wouldn't we be doing this? And just the dynamics of that discussion, sometimes it's just the fact that we aren't asking people, are you doing this? And then we're not asking ourselves, what are the consequences of not excelling in this area of management? So it's kind of like saying, well, you're a poor communicator. Well, that's a general statement that doesn't mean anything. But if you can get specific about what areas of communication you have problems in, we can make progress. And likewise, with management, it's not good enough to say our farmers are poor managers. We need to get specific. We need to break it down into the day-to-day practices that constitute the function of management